DogWorks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com. DogWorks Radio Network presents Mushing Radio, hosted by Robert Forto. Mushing Radio is about dog-powered sports, living in the Great White North, and mushing. Visit our website at mushingradio.com. Here is your host, Robert Forto.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert Forto and you're listening to Mushing Radio here on KVRF 89.7 in the Mat-Su Valley. RadioFreePalmer.org is our live streaming site, and you can hear all of our episodes over on dogworksradio.com. Be sure to check us out on social media at Dogworks Radio. Today we're joined by one of the members of Team USA that's heading over to Sweden in the Dryland Musher Series. Her name is Emily Ferrans. She's calling in from Erie, Pennsylvania. Emily, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. Can you do us a favor and introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you're all about, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Emily Ferrans. I'm 18 years old. I'm currently a college student at Penn State Ferrans in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm studying nutritional sciences, and I also run cross-country and track and field there. As for my sled dog racing background, I started racing when I was about 13, but I've been involved with sled dogs for, probably over a decade now, actually. My dad got me into the sport as a kid. You know, I travel around to races with him, help handle his skeeter team, and, you know, I absolutely loved it. So I raced with recreationally with our rescue dog, Duchess, for a few years. And then I got my own dog when I was 16. You know, I wanted to get a little bit more competitive. I currently have one competitive race dog, Marge. She is a Eurohound, and she is the dog that I will be taking to Sweden in the Elite One Dog Bike Cheer class. And we are very excited for the opportunity.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience leading up to getting picked for Team USA. You had mentioned that you've been involved with mushing since you're about 13. So you said about 5 years now. What did it take to move to that elite level? I know you said that you did some recreational running with your dog, but what put you over the edge, so to speak?
Probably when I got March when I was 16. You know, like I said, I raced recreationally with my rescue dog, Duchess. You know, she was great. She pulled. She was not very fast. But eventually, as I kept racing, I looked around me and I saw, you know, people are racing these, you know, sleek, beautiful, fast hound dogs. And I'm like, I want one. So I started talking to more people, got some mentors in the sport, which really helped me. And I got Marge. And we kind of jumped off the deep end there and have never looked back.
You know, I think a lot of the recreational mushers in particular that are listening to you are probably nodding their heads when you say that, because when you really get that elite bred dog, whether it be a Siberian Husky or an Alaskan or a Eurohound or whatever, it can really change your team and really take you to the next level, can't it?
Absolutely.
So, Emily, let's talk a little bit about being a college student and doing this race over in Sweden. I know you and I connected on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, and you were just heading up to college at that point. How does that play into not only training, but also the travel plans? I know being a college student is pretty much a full-time job in of itself.
Yeah, it is for sure. Actually, my classes start on Monday, but I've been here at college. I'm a freshman since last Sunday. But as for my travel plans and training plans, I have an amazing support system back home. I could not do this without my family. They have kind of taken over my dog's training during the week. And then I drive home on the weekends to train Marge and continue to train her for Worlds. it's just a lot of time management, and I know I'm going to be communicating with my professors a lot these next few weeks about how I'm going to prepare for Sweden and not get too far behind in class.
So you had mentioned that training still happens at home, and off air you said you lived in Pittsburgh, and dryland mushing is truly a sport that you can do just about anywhere. And I know that you're running in the one dog bike drawer class. Can you tell us a little bit about how training takes place in a big urban area like the city of Pittsburgh?
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of just have to know where to look. I know in Pittsburgh there are a lot of state parks that surround the area. There is a 30-mile long rail trail that also surrounds Pittsburgh. It's gravel and it is absolutely perfect for interval training there. I'm very big on doing a lot of interval training with Marge. Since she's older, she can rest a little bit in between her reps. But most of the time, we train at state parks, a lot of hills in Pittsburgh. It is not very flat, so training is, typically slow and difficult, but, that really builds not only the dog's muscles, but your muscles as well. So by the time a race comes, you're ready to roll.
So being so close to an urban area like Pittsburgh, do you see a lot of traffic on the trails? And if so, how do you maneuver around that? Because, you're not just out for a walk with your dog or taking your dog out for a ride on the bike. You guys are rocking and rolling down the trail.
Right. So typically I will train very early in the morning or close to at night or later in the evening, so there isn't quite as much foot traffic. But I do see people on the trail. I see dog walkers, other bikers. And it's more, you just want to communicate with them. You want to set a good example for your sport. You want to be able to control your dog, clean up after your dog. Yeah.
Well, I would have to imagine that with that traffic on the trail, it helps you and your dog in a race situation. If there's more distractions around, if there's more things coming and going, it should help with your competitiveness, right?
It does, for sure. We get a lot of on-by training.
I'm sure. So, Emily, you also said that you run cross-country, and I know a lot of your fellow athletes that are heading over to Sweden are athletes in one discipline or another. I know that there's one that's a professional BMXer and triathlete, and others that have ran in college and whatnot. So you're in a field of peers for sure. How does that help you prepare for a race like this, being, involved with competitive sports, whether it's on the college level or high school level or whatever?
Oh, it helps immensely. Training during the week on my own, my coach helps me. We set up a particular training plan. You stick to that training plan. And then when I come home on the weekend, I typically, during my cross-country seasons, I do not do canicross with my dog because it just could lead to a higher risk of injury for me as a runner, running hard during the week. So typically, I'll just bike with my dogs on the weekends when I come home to train, and I honestly really don't help them very much, but that helps them to have tougher heads and, be able to pull through things, pull through situations, with a tougher mind and not quit.
Emily, are you involved with the college team now or going to be in the near future?
I am, yes. I run on the cross-country team for Penn State Barons.
So
I will probably be doing track as well.
So I have a question about that. Do you have any restrictions on you in regard to being on a college team and then doing recreational activities like this? And I say that because a lot of times professional football players or, college football players or whatever are not allowed to do outside recreational activities. They can't go whitewater rafting or, do things that could put their sport in danger. Do you have anything like that prevents you from doing so?
No, I think it depends on the person, honestly. I'm just very, aware of my body, and, if something hurts, I'm big on cross training as well. mountain biking, aqua running, stuff like that. So if there's a day where I'm, something hurts, I won't run, and I will usually road bike. But no restrictions.
So let's talk about the crossover between the two sports, running as a college athlete in cross country and or track, and then running in dog-powered sports, whether it be the one-dog bike jor class or canicross or whatever. How do you take the two and combine them to be the best that you can be?
I think that as a college-level athlete now and having done cross-country since middle school, I've been in a lot of race situations over the years, so it's kind of calmed my mind a bit. I used to get very nervous, before any type of race, whether it be, running a 5K or, a skijoring race up in Quebec. But over the years with my experience, I've learned to, calm my mind, focus on the task at hand, and then also just the aspect of training outside of dogs-powered sports allows me to be the best that I can and not hinder my dog's performance at all. So I just have to focus on, getting my dogs to the best level that they can be.
So you had mentioned calming your mind and focusing. A lot of people use music. You'll often see athletes that have on their headphones before the games and things like that. Do you have any pre-race or training rituals of such?
Yeah, I do. I have my own training routine. I'll go through my stretches, go through my warm-up, and that's regardless of a cross-country race or, a dry-land race. I warm up with my dog. But I also listen to music a lot. I think that really calms my mind down a lot. I take some deep breaths, focus on, what I need to do out there, and I go do it.
So I have to ask, what do you listen to on your warm-ups?
A wide variety of everything. Usually something that's, upbeat. Yeah, a lot of different things. I don't really have a type of music.
So it's not Taylor Swift or Metallica or anything like that?
No. I do listen to a little bit of Metallica, but no Taylor Swift.
Excellent. So let's talk about your trip over to Sweden. You said off air that this was your first trip over to the World Championships, and I'm sure that it's the first time on a big stage like this. What are you thinking about when you were picked for the team and, saying it's time to go, and you're about a month and a half out, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually had this goal of making a World Championship team for about the last year and a half. I saw the Poland athletes over, on the Facebook Live, on social media, and I was just like, wow, I really want to get there. So I've been training very hard. I've been going to a lot of different IFSS accredited races all around Canada, U.S., the Midwest, trying to get enough points. And then I applied with the application process, and I made it for the One Dog Bike Tour event. And I just could not be more excited because I think this is going to be such a huge learning opportunity for me to set me up for my own kennel a few years down the road once I graduate.
So I have a couple of questions based on what you just said. The first one, you had said that you had thought about this for about a year and a half, and that brings up for something very interesting because one of your fellow athletes said he had been thinking about this race for the last 3 years, and he got a dog just for that reason. He went out and purchased a high-quality dog and been training for 3 years such, and now you're in a very similar situation with being about a year and a half out. Was that the plan with getting your new dog, that I'm going to train this dog to go to an elite level race like the race over in Sweden, or did things just fall in its place?
Things actually somewhat just fell in its place, at least for the first year. Like I mentioned, I got March when I was 16 with just the goal of becoming faster and gaining more experience with the dog that, already knew how to lead, already had experience pulling in harness, already had race experience. So she was great on that end. She has been a phenomenal teacher for me, a phenomenal teammate, friend, athlete, you name it. But as we started to progress and started to get faster, I know actually one of the Team USA members, her name is Stephanie Meyer, she actually mentioned to me at a race one weekend, about a year and a half ago, hey, Emily, you're getting very, very good fast. You should really think about making a world team. And she kind of put that bug in my ear. And from then on, I've just been, completely absorbed in knowing, how am I going to get here, and going to all of these sanctioned races, making sure I get enough points, and finally applying for this process. And I'm just so excited that I'm on Team USA, and I think it's going to be a great learning opportunity.
So you had mentioned speaking with Stephanie Myers, and in fact, we just spoke with her the other day. And for folks that are listening, you can definitely check out the episode where we do talk to Stephanie. A great interview. She called in from Germany, and that's always cool to hear the different cultures and things as well.
Right.
So, Emily, let's talk a little bit about those points that you mentioned. And I think our listeners would really enjoy to hear about how they, number one, divvy up those points, and number two, how you go about getting them. And I ask because a lot of folks that are listening are in other competitive sports outside of dog mushing, and in competitive obedience or conformation dog shows and whatnot are on a point system as well. And I know in conformation that one race or one event may have more points than the other. Say a show in Dallas may offer more points than a show in Portland. Is it similar in dryland mushing, or is it something totally different?
Sure. Excellent question. I guess I would say it is somewhat similar. There are more points, the more competitors there are in your class. So, for example, Bristol Dryland, we've gone there the past 2 years, and those races have a lot more points than here in the U.S. I know USFSS, the United States Federation of Sled Dog Sports, they want to look at your past racing records, your IFSS World Cup standing points. You want to be probably, placing within the top 3 in your class, when you're applying for USFSS and Team USA.
I am very familiar with the ISDRA points, the International Sled Dog Racing Association, and they have points where you can get medals. So if you're in 8-dog class in snow, or 2-dog class bike jor or whatever, you can accumulate points to potentially get a medal in that class, and you're competing against everybody else in that particular class. Is that the same thing with the Federation of Sled Dog Sports as well?
Yes, it is similar to ISDRA. They do hand out medals at the end of the year, I believe. There are a few rule differences, like, for example, like the 6 and 8 dog class, the rig must have 4 wheels instead of 3 that you would typically see here in inter-sanctioned races. And you also need to apply for a IFSS DID number to be able to compete.
So with these points, were you picked for the team solely on the number of points you had, or was it kind of an overall racing career, or was it something totally different?
I think it was a bit of an overall thing. I've been racing with Marge for about 3 years now, but I think we've, started to hit our peak the last 2 years. And I do have a pretty good racing record with her as well. But I'm just very thankful for the opportunity that USFSS picked me, because, I think that they know that this is also going to be, such a big learning opportunity for me. We're going to go over there, we're going to give it our best shot. Marge is 8.5 years old now. She still thinks she's a puppy. She's running great, doing fantastic in training. I'm, very fit as well right now. and we're going to give it our best shot. But this is also going to be a big learning opportunity for me to be able to look over in Europe and see how do these people train their dogs to be the best that they can be. Because right now the best sprint mushers in the world are in Europe. So if I eventually want to compete on their level, I need to go where the competition is, and I'm just so excited to go there.
And that's a great point that you made about the best being in Europe, and I want to qualify that a little bit with something that folks that aren't involved with the sports may recognize. When folks watch the Olympics, there are always countries that are better at one sport than another. Say hockey, U.S. women's hockey is really good, or in snowboarding, of course, the U.S. team is always really well, and in bobsledding, it's usually a European country that does very well. Why do you think that the Europeans, in particular the Northern Europeans, are so good at sprint mushing and these dryland sports such as bike joring and canicross and rig and whatnot?
I think that's just the way that things are set up over there. A lot of the Europeans focus on the mono dog sports, the 1 and 2 dog sports. Their dogs are not only athletes, but their family as well. They come inside, they live inside. So just that aspect of things, living with your teammates. Most of them have vans versus dog trucks where we see in the U.S. So I think that's something different, and I'm actually very excited to see all the different, setups that they use. How did they contain and, transport, 3 to, say, 10 dogs, in a large cargo van. But I think that just the way that they're set up over there just allows them to be better.
Emily, I have not asked this question, and I think you are the 15th, maybe even 16th person that I've had on this show, but do you know the makeup of countries that's going to be there? And I ask because I know that dryland mushing is very popular in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, of course, here in the U.S., and in Europe as well. Do you know the makeup of who's going to be competing?
I don't know exactly, but it is from all corners of the world. I know, in South America, here in North America, Australia, and I believe there's going to be between, don't quote me on this, but 25 to 30 countries this year in the World Championships. So wow. A lot of different backgrounds, which is very exciting.
That is exciting, and we get excited when we have somebody come up here from the lower 48 or from Canada and run in one of our little sprint mushing events. So it's got to be cool to be around all of those folks and all the different cultures and the languages and the different dogs and all of that. And you had said that you haven't had a chance to race overseas yet, but I believe I heard that you'd raced in Canada. Was that a big time race as well, where a lot of people came from all over?
Yes, for sure. Bristol Dryland, I believe this year was the biggest number of entries that Bristol Dryland has ever had, and I was there last fall, and it was incredible. I've been racing at Bristol the past 2 years for their dryland and their snow race as well called Pontiac. And it is probably one of my favorite races to go to just because of how professional it is. The track is super fast. You go where the competition is, and it is so exciting to race against, the best of the best in North America.
So let's switch gears a little bit, Emily. You talked about entering college. You said you're a freshman there in Erie, Pennsylvania, and you're going to be studying nutritional science. And that's intriguing because as a dog musher, we are very, very particular about what we feed our dogs, and I'm sure you're very particular about what you feed yourself. So this is really a two-part question. Number one, how do you determine what you feed your dog, and is it kind of science-based like what you're studying? And number two, can you tell us a little bit about your diet as a college athlete and an elite bike jorer that's heading over to run in Sweden?
Sure. So I'll start with Marge. Marge is on you might be familiar with Animate Kibble. A lot of dog mushers have used Animate for years with great success. But there's sled dogs. She's on kibble, and she's also on a little bit of raw. We have a really good local butcher in our area who makes pre-made raw grinds. So I think it's important to give a little bit of meat as well. And I've seen, her skin and coat has gotten so much better. Her muscles are just bulging. And she's doing very well on that diet. So she's been getting that for about 3 years, about as much as I've had her. As for me, I don't eat a lot of junk food. I don't go to McDonald's at all. I'm very particular about what I eat, especially when I know, I have a long run coming up. I have a race coming up. I eat a lot of fruits, vegetables, antioxidants. Yeah.
So since you are heavily into this nutritional science, I have to ask, is there a cheat day for both you and your dog, or kind of that celebration meal? And if so, what is it?
Yes, usually after a race, Marge and I will split a hamburger.
There you go. But not McDonald's, you said.
Not McDonald's.
So let's talk. We have a couple of minutes left, and I always ask the same questions, but I have one more question in regards to heading over to Sweden. What is your process for doing that? I'm sure that you've had to go to get the vet checks, or going to have to do the vet checks and the health certificates and all that. Is there anything else that you're planning to do to prepare yourself or your dog for the long journey over across the ocean there?
Right. Excellent question. So, we've already bought our flight tickets and everything. My mom's going to be coming with me on this trip, which I'm very excited about. So we bought our flight tickets. Marge's space is reserved. My bike is reserved. I'll be flying my bike over. So we did our vet checks as well. She's all up to date on her shots. We got her a cargo crate. She's been spending a lot of time in there, which she actually loves the crate, which I think is important to quick train your dog before doing a trip like this. And the next thing we are working on currently is finding transportation once we get over to Sweden. We're flying into Stockholm, and then we'll be driving 4 hours south to Nybro. And we're currently looking at renting a cargo van just because of space-wise with our crate and the bike and 2 people. So that's currently what we're working on. But training-wise, I'm very busy during the week training her on the cross-country, and then on the weekends, up until World, I'm going to be driving home, training Marge. But like I said before, I could not do this without my family. They're doing amazing, training Marge for me during the week. And now it's just about, keeping injury-free, staying focused, staying fit. So we'll be ready.
So I have to back up just a little bit. You said that you're shipping your bike over. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your bike setup? What type is it? Is it a specially modified bike at all? What made you choose that bike to race with?
So it's a Gary Fisher mountain bike. It has disc brakes, which I think is very important if you're going to be bike touring with your dog. I've been riding it for a few years now, and I absolutely love it. And it'll go in its own bike case. And I think we're flying with Scandinavian Airlines, and it shouldn't be more than 50, 60 pounds. So it'll go in as a check-in bag, and it'll fly with us over to Sweden.
Have you ever had a chance to run a bike joy race on a fat tire bike? I know that those are very popular up here at our dryland races. Now, of course, they're not nearly as fast as the smaller tire mountain bikes. But have you had the chance to run one of those yet?
I have actually. I bike toured on snow with it before. My aunt bought a fat tire bike last year. She also races with me on occasion. She does the bike touring as well, and she purchased a fat tire bike and, lets me ride it on occasion. Oh my gosh, they are so much fun, especially on snow. It is super cool to just kind of, glide over top of the snow. and you're not going slower at all. It's a really cool feeling, and I love it.
It is a fun way to go. So my next question, Emily, is the one I ask all of our guests on the show, and that is, if somebody came up to you and asked for advice, whether they're getting involved with one dog or multiple dogs, what would you give them?
Sure. First of all, I would probably find a mentor or a club to kind of mentor you into the sport. Chances are they've probably made their own mistakes in the past, so you can learn from them. And you also want to sit down and figure out, do I want to be competitive? Do I want to be recreational? What kind of dog do I need for that? The equipment, do I feel more comfortable on a bike or a scooter? So, it all depends on that. And then from those goals, you also want to get the right kind of dog for your classes. These days, people are breeding such specific dogs for their classes. They range so differently. So you want to make sure before, you get locked in for 13 years, with one particular dog, that this dog is going to be exactly right for you. And then, it sounds a little cheesy, but you also just want to have fun with your dog. You love them, respect them as athletes and teammates. They'll just do anything in the world for you.
That's awesome advice, and I have to agree with you. And we talked about it earlier in the show that picking the right dog definitely can make a big difference. Whether you're running in a one dog class or picking that really elite lead dog, if you have a team of 16, that can definitely make a difference for sure. So, last question, Emily, is whom would you like to thank, whether it be family, friends, sponsors, whomever?
First of all, I would just really like to congratulate all of the Team USA members who are coming to Sweden with me. I cannot wait to meet some of you that I haven't met before. I'd also like to thank my sponsor, Nonstop Dogwear USA, my family for being so incredibly supportive of me, my mom especially for joining me in Sweden, Rich Kisloff for loaning me his bike case so I can fly my bike over to Sweden, Fox Racing Kennels for giving me Marge. She's the most amazing dog and teammate. I just could not be more thankful for all of the people who have supported me over the years.
Excellent stuff. Emily, hang on for us to chat just right after the show. And with that, I want to say thank you for our guest today, Emily Ferrans. She's calling in from Pennsylvania and heading over to run in the one-dog bike joy class with Team USA in Sweden in just a couple of months. And you can find all of our episodes where we talk to Team USA right here on dogworksradio.com. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and you will get all of your episodes on whatever your device you're listening on, whether it be iPhone or Android or your computer or whatever. So with all of that, this is Robert Forto for Mushing Radio. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
From Dogworks Radio, this is Mushing Radio. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you'll see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Alex Stein and Robert Forto. Our producer is Robert Forto, created for Dogworks Radio. Did you know that Alaska Dogworks trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska Dogworks on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.